A live tiger is returning to Tiger Stadium. The Omar era begins. So we got to talk about this. It's Locked on LSU. Let's go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. We are free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, please smash that like button. And remember, the best way to help us grow is to leave a comment below. So please leave your comments on the episode. You probably have heard that there's going to be a live tiger in Tiger Stadium for the LSU-Alabama game on Saturday. What you may not know is that I and our staff over at LouisianaSports.net broke that story. So I will tell you how this all came to be and all the things that you maybe haven't read yet by people who have been basically aggregating the story that we broke and then adding on to it. Let me give you a little bit of a background. So of course, for decades, LSU had a great tradition of bringing Mike the Tiger, its live Bengal Tiger mascot, into Tiger Stadium. Mike had a trailer cage that they would hitch to a truck, and they would wheel the Tiger cage around Tiger Stadium, take a lap around the field. They'd park the cage right in front of the visitor locker room, and they would then entice the Tiger to growl and intimidate the opponent. For many years, they had a prod. They would prod the Tiger to growl. That became considered inhumane, which I don't necessarily disagree with that at all. When I was a student at LSU, the costumed Mike the Tiger would walk up to the cage. That would provoke the Tiger, and it would growl. They had a microphone at the cage, and it would be loud. And they played over the loudspeaker. People would cheer and go crazy. I think one of the things that's important to remember is that Mike the Tiger is beloved. It is a beloved tradition, and people care very much about the animal. I know there are people who are animal activists that don't appreciate a live tiger being caged on campus and held, not in the wild. I don't agree with that. I'll get into some of that. I don't mean to make this a political thing at all, but just to set the record, and I would like to say what I think probably should happen with this tradition moving forward. So I'll tell you basically what happened. So, and this is something you don't know because everyone who's taken the story we broke at Louisiana Sports and that doesn't know this. So Wednesday night of Alabama week, I got a phone call from a good friend and someone who's a very closely and highly placed source in and around LSU that told me, actually sent me a text and said, "Are you aware of the Tiger news?" And it was a capital T. So my first assumption was he's talking about capital T. I'm thinking Tiger Woods. I'm going, oh my God, what's going on with Tiger Woods? I called this person who then proceeded to tell me that Governor Jeff Landry of Louisiana was going to bring a live tiger, into Tiger Stadium for the Alabama game. Now, the governor of the state, who's been the governor for about a year now, last year's elections was elected, and I guess less than his tenure has been less than a year now since he's been inaugurated, but he was elected about a year ago. One of the things that the governor said, who was an LSU fan, I can tell you, I went to an event where an informal event, and the governor had on a LSU button-up shirt tucked into blue jeans with cowboy boots and an LSU ball cap as well. So he's an LSU fan. And one of the things that he's been very outspoken about is wanting to bring back the live tiger tradition. Now, there was much objection from people around LSU in academia, deans of the colleges, the provost, people around LSU. The vet school was very opposed to this, which is why Mike the Tiger, Mike the 7th, LSU's official live Bengal Tiger mascot, was not going to be made to leave his habitat, enter the cage, and be wheeled around Tiger Stadium. Mike is 8 years old and has spent his entire life in this 15,000 square foot habitat across from Tiger Stadium. He's never been put in that situation where he's been in this small cage and wheeled around. And the concern is from people, in the vet school and his caretakers are that if you take this live tiger into this cage and wheel him around the stadium where there's lights and stomping and noise. It could make the tiger very uncomfortable. It could provoke him, and it could be unhealthy for Mike the Tiger. So that's essentially why they discontinued the whole the practice. When Mike the Fifth, remember, Mike the Fifth became LSU's live mascot in 1990 as a tiger cub at the time, and so he's very familiar. That's all he ever knew. And when Mike the Fifth died in 2007, the LSU acquired a tiger, Roscoe, you might remember, from a habitat in Indiana, and he became Mike. Well, Roscoe, Mike, wasn't necessarily out. This is right when I started covering LSU football. 2007 was my first season covering the team. I was a student at LSU from 2001 to 2004. Roscoe sometimes would go on the cage, sometimes wouldn't. Then when Mike the sixth died, Roscoe, they effectively stopped this this practice in 2015 when Mike the Seventh became, I guess, ordained. Is that the right word to use? I don't know. It was in 2015, so we haven't seen the tiger in Tiger Stadium since 2015. And Jeff Landry came along and wanted to reinstate this practice. There was a lot of pushback by academia, obviously animal rights groups. And in this instance, the governor had kind of become hell-bent on doing this, as I understand it. And remember, some people have asked, well, how could the governor make this happen? Ultimately, it's LSU's decision. Well, remember, the governor appoints the members of the Board of Supervisors. And the governor is the chief executive officer of the state, and higher education is state funded. So when you think of things like state funding and the governor appointing board members, all of it is a political struggle. And so in some instances, if the governor wishes to wield his power, he can. And in this instance, Jeff Landry did. He wanted this tiger on the field for the Alabama game, and he held his political power over those associated with LSU, despite their very staunch objection. So the issue then was, if you couldn't get Mike the Seventh in the cage, what do you do? So for some months now, it is my understanding, the governor's office and representatives of the governor's office have been calling wildlife habitats, these refuges that these big tiger sanctuaries, to find a replacement for Mike, for a tiger that could be in the cage that could go around Tiger Stadium. And they located a tiger in Florida, and they were able to strike this deal to bring this tiger, whose name is Omar, to Baton Rouge. The more I talk about this, the more ridiculous it sounds, admittedly. I'll get to a point, I promise. So Omar will be in Mike's cage. I was shared a video, and I can tell you, from the initial phone call I had no less than a half a dozen sources confirm this to me in various entities. I even saw a picture of Mike's cage, the trailer cage, that was reinforced. There's plexiglass around it now. On the base near the wheel, it used to say Mike the Sixth. Well, that's been scrubbed. It's just been covered now. It's just gold paint now, as you'll see Saturday in Tiger Stadium, because it's not Mike. It's Omar the tiger, who will be in that cage wheeling around Tiger Stadium. And the big question is, will this continue? So they're bringing in the tiger from a habitat in the state of Florida, and then will ultimately be returned after this game against Alabama. So we broke this news, and it's been to at LouisianaSports.net, and it has been to a much mixed reaction. There were a lot of LSU fans that maybe are happy about the live tiger in Tiger Stadium tradition returning, but don't like that it's not Mike the Tiger. And then there are people who are very displeased with putting a tiger in the cage. And then there are people who just don't understand why we're wasting state resources on this conversation. PETA, the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, did respond to me. They sent me an email in response to our report, and I will tell you what PETA told me specifically, and I'll give you my opinion on this tradition continuing or not as we continue. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's show is also brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. So I mentioned PETA responded. I got an email today from the people for the ethical treatment of animals. And the statement read as such: it's shameful and out of touch with today's respect for wild species that LSU is bowed to Governor Landry's campaign to display a live tiger at its football games to amuse the fans. LSU rightly ended this idiotic, archaic practice nearly a decade ago after recognizing that it was cruel to subject a sensitive big cat to the noise, lights, and crowd in a football stadium. Whether the tiger is confined to campus or shipped in from elsewhere, no reputable facility would subject a tiger to such chaos and stress. And PETA and nearly 50,000 of its supporters have already called on Landry to let up and leave big cats alone, and are now urging LSU to grow a spine and just say no. End quote. Okay. My opinion. I like the tradition of Mike the Tiger on the field. In 2015, I was covering LSU, and at the time, I was doing these pre- and post-game on-field videos on our radio station's YouTube channel. And there's a video of me ranting at the Tiger, essentially saying, hey, you live a great life, okay? You don't have to worry about predators. You don't have to go find any food. You got a curated diet. You got great medical care. You got dental care as well. You live in this habitat that's this multi-million-dollar habitat where you got grass and trees to scratch yourself, and you got your own pool, and people adore you and all this sort of stuff. It's a great life for a tiger. And the only thing we ask is you get you behind in the cage and take a lap around the field 7 times a year. That's it. It ain't too much to ask. That's the bit I did. Now, part of that is theatrical and for show, how I would deliver it, but I do kind of believe it. I don't have any problem whatsoever with putting the tiger in a cage and wheeling it around Tiger Stadium as part of a grand tradition. Now, prodding the tiger and things like that do feel a bit ridiculous and unnecessary. And like I just said, with Mike V, who became LSU's mascot in 1990 as a tiger cub, the only thing that tiger ever knew was that life. And so my point has been, okay, Mike VII now isn't necessarily interested in going in this cage. He's an 8-year-old tiger. He's never done it. The next Mike the Tiger, it would stand to reason, look, if you get that tiger as a cub, you can raise it in this environment where it's not a big deal. I don't know how it's any different than when I had, and maybe I'm dead wrong, I'm not an animal rights person or anything, but I had 2 boxers, and I crate trained my boxers from the time they were puppies. They learned to be in their crate, and they learned to love it. If I left their crate out and left the door open, they would just go sit in their crate because they loved it. It was their sanctuary. They had no problem with it. They were very familiar and conditioned to that environment. I don't know how this would or could be any different. So on its face, I have no problem with putting a tiger in the cage and wheeling it around Tiger Stadium and creating more atmosphere. I think it's an amazing thing to see this enormous cat. I love the fact that Mike the Tiger resides on campus. I think it's amazing for people who read about live tigers in books and see National Geographic that you can walk onto LSU's campus and see this amazing, majestic being. And by the way, this being is cared for with love for its entire life. And I would also say that for decades, the Mike the Tiger tradition has existed, and these tigers have outlived what tigers do in the wild. So you are providing an amazing life for these tigers. I don't have an objection at all to LSU having a live tiger mascot. I don't have an objection at all to the live tiger mascot being on the field. Texas has Bevo, this gigantic steer that they sedate, and he stands on the field. Colorado has Ralphie, this buffalo that runs on the field with its trainers and its handlers. Auburn has an eagle named Tiger that flies around the stadium and lands at midfield. It's all about ambiance and these majestic beings that add so much to the atmosphere around college football and the pageantry of the game. And Mike the Tiger is an amazing part of that. People aren't laughing or mocking Mike the Tiger. They're revering it and respecting it and enjoying the moment to be able to see this live tiger. So I can't say that I'm necessarily pumped about a tiger that's not Mike the Tiger taking a lap around the field, but I don't have a problem with the live tiger mascot tradition, and I hope it does continue with the next tiger who might be trained from the time he's a cub or she is a cub to be Mike the Tiger and be out there and execute all of those duties per se. I don't think, there's a problem with UGA being on a football field or Reveille with Texas A&M being on a football field or, Sir Spur, the South Carolina Gamecock that sits there on the field. There's this tremendous tradition of live mascots being involved in sporting events. And I don't think Mike the Tiger should be any different. So it's just about doing it right and respectfully. Now, I will say this. If LSU loses Saturday to Alabama, it's going to become the Omar game. Y'all know that, right? It is going to become known as the Omar game. Back, if you are old enough to remember the 1995 game when LSU played Kentucky and they wore the purple pants, that is forever known as the Purple Pants game. It was Jerry DiNardo's first year. Tigers had an upset win over Auburn. They were really surprising a lot of people nationally that year. Kentucky was a terrible football team, and LSU went up to Lexington. They broke out purple pants, lost the game, and heretofore that has been known as the Purple Pants game, and LSU's never worn purple pants again. And there's been other instances of stuff like that. Remember, Georgia in 2008 wore black jerseys in a home game against Alabama. They got blown out. It was 31-0 before they even had a pulse. And it became a joke that Georgia had basically dressed for their own funeral. Sometimes you make your bed, you lay in it. And maybe that's the case with this. If LSU loses to Alabama, every LSU fan is going to say that Omar the Tiger jinxed LSU and Jeff Landry jinxed LSU with Omar because it wasn't Mike and it's sacrilegious. Because that's what irrational sports fans do, as if having a tiger named Omar on the field has anything to do with what's going to happen Saturday night in the football game. But it'll be known as the Omar game for better or worse. But there will be a live tiger in Tiger Stadium Saturday when LSU takes on Alabama. Who won't be there is Nick Saban, and that is far more consequential than whether or not a tiger named Omar will be taking a lap pregame. Okay, that'll do it for us here on today's episode of Locked on LSU. Do me a favor, drop your comments on YouTube or on podcast. As we say, the best way to help us grow is to leave your comments below. So if you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you every day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.